Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you, Wale.
And congratulations on your new book, Skin.
Yes.
Now, outside of Skin and Nigeria Jones, your backlist is extensive. So I wanted to kind of start us off by hearing a little about your journey as a writer.
Oh, it's a long journey. I have been writing my entire adult life, but becoming published was a longer journey.
Okay.
I was writing articles, doing spoken word in college. So I came of age during the big spoken word movement in Brooklyn, during the neo soul era, sort of like the late 90s, early 2000s.
It was like, would that be like Alphabet City?
How you know that? Yeah.
You know, I know a little bit. I know a little bit.
Yeah, that's the Lower East Side and what Puerto Ricans would call Loisada. And that's where the New Yorican Poets Cafe is. But I was in Brooklyn. I was in Fort Greene.
Okay.
Fort Greene now doesn't look like how it looked back then. There was something called the Brooklyn Moon Cafe. Moshood, who is a Nigerian designer, had his clothes there, and you would see celebrities wearing his clothes. It was just a little Afrocentric hub, and there was a black bookstore there. And we would go there to hang out and bump into people. Also, the West Village in Manhattan. And something called the Tea Party, where they'd have an open mic, a featured poet, and a dance party, and it would be house music.
Oh.
And there'd be incense, there'd be floor pillows,
Wow.
shea butter, black soap, all of that they're selling on the
time.
side. That was a time. And this is where my artistic self was nurtured. And from writing poetry and writing for the black newspaper at my school, I got into short stories. I discovered Octavia Butler and other black writers, and the rest, as they say, is her story. But I didn't really get traditionally published until much later on.
Okay.
And for a long time, I didn't want to get published. I had poet friends who were making money doing spoken word shows in other countries like Amsterdam. I'm talking thousands of dollars they get paid.
Okay. So you were like, that sounds fun.
Yeah. And then because it was... They felt like they didn't need a book publishing contract. They could sell their little chapbooks and still travel the world, sharing their poetry. But then I met the first person to tell me how much they made off their books, and she said she got 6 figures for her book deal. My jaw dropped. And that woman was N.K. Jemisin. Oh, she told, that's when she did her first book deal. She told me how much she got paid. I was like, oh, bet. Okay.
So, I mean, for N.K. Jemisin to be the person that's like, hey, like,
maybe
I should like pursue this. Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, because I was selling short stories. When I got into genre fiction, it was mostly science fiction and fantasy. Okay. So science fiction especially has a huge short story market. So does literary fiction, like the university journals, like Paris Review and stuff like that. You can sell a short story, and for science fiction, you get a few cents per word, that sort of thing. So I was trying to get published to get paid, but they were short stories. Then I met somebody who got book contract.
Right.
And I never thought about how much you get paid to publish a book. I wanted to write a book, but then I realized I could make a living off of this. Yeah. And that was a goal since then, but I had to work on my craft.
Yeah. So it's all of a sudden possibility entered the room for you of like, okay, this could be something that I do.
Possibility and dream. And I met Octavia Butler, and she was an author. She wrote for a living. And by the time I met her, she had already gotten a MacArthur Genius Award. And I met Edwidge Danticat. And when I met both of them around the same time, and I told myself I want to merge their two worlds in my own work. Yeah. Speculative fiction and stories about Haiti.
Yeah, I mean, meeting Edwidge, I can imagine, was very special because you're also Haitian as well, too.
Yeah.
In kind of being able to establish, like, okay, I want to write in this particular way, right? Do you feel like you came across any sort of like barriers to being able to write from your experience as being Haitian and being American?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how I wrote American Street. American Street was not a story I wanted to write because it's an immigrant story. I was trying not to write an immigrant story because everybody was telling me this is what they wanted. I was writing fantasy, speculative fiction based on Haitian Vodou mythology. Those were my first pieces of writing. And no one knew what to do with that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the sort of just like, tell us how horrible your country is. It was using the folklore and the mythology to, in sort of a magical realism way.
Right.
And then I was also doing some sort of like radical Black literature type stuff. So when I started writing my first novel, it was after I saw The Matrix, the first one.
Wow.
I'm dating myself. So, and I was in college and everybody was talking about The Matrix, right? Red pill, blue pill, in a different context than it is now. So I read Invisible Man by Richard Wright. And I wanted to, and I love science fiction. Another favorite movie is Blade Runner.
Okay. Some classics.
Classics. Sure. 12 Monkeys is another classic. I love The Twilight Zone. And my first book was a dystopian, like a futuristic invisible man, and the two women who saved him. It was terrible, but it never got published. But I practiced my writing, so I was always playing with genre. I was never writing anything realistic. But when I tried to get those books published, I got no feedback. Nobody wanted them until I went for my MFA in writing for children. And I decided to write for children just so I could write fantasy. And I also wanted to get a PhD in mythological studies.
Wow.
Mythological studies is one school in California that houses a man by the name of Joseph Campbell. You know Joseph Campbell, he did The Power of Myth, the monomyth, which is what Star Wars is based on. So he talks all about world mythology and how they're connected. I love that kind of stuff. Yeah. It was too expensive. So I went for my MFA instead. And that's how I got into YA and middle grade and picture books.
Yeah. So from what I'm hearing, your desire to continue to build these worlds and to stay in fantasy led you to really focusing on children and teens, because at the time you weren't able to see how you could do it with adults.
I think there was more freedom in writing for children. I could move around genre. Yeah. I could write a back to school picture book. I could write nonfiction in a fairly short amount of time. And because I was raising my own children too. Yeah. So that's what and then the contemporary books that I wrote, Nigeria Jones, it's me wanting to get out a certain idea. I really, this is my favorite book that I've written because I got to really shine a light on niche communities in Black spaces. And when I told you about the spoken word space and how the space was really African centered, this is the kind of communities I was involved in my early days. And those were the communities that nurtured my art, that shifted the way that I saw the world. Those are the communities that turned me into a reader. And right now, the misnomer or the derogatory term is hoteps. I used to say hotep back in the day. I know a lot about Egyptology, and then I know the word hotep means peace. My wedding ring is hieroglyphics. Okay. So I was steeped in the worlds that forced us to read books, forced us to dig into history and culture.
And to question.
Radical questioning. Sometimes it could border conspiracy theories. Because I was like 21 and I was dating guys who were telling me about soy milk, right? And they were talking about fasting and the third eye and stuff like that. So I was wide open in terms of the information that I was getting. Yeah. And I wanted to put all of that in a book. and tell the story of a girl who's pushing back against all of that to find her personal freedom. So that's Nigeria Jones.
Wow. I mean, as someone that's read the book and also loves it, it's so interesting to hear like your own personal relationship to it, because like you mentioned, you are in a space where discipline is kind of like the main focus of the world in the that you're describing, right? Like discipline, being able to study, learn, and question, which are all good things. It's like, but then there's that borderline where you kind of go into another space where you're like, I don't know about that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's radical. The radical black radical tradition is a story that needs to be told. And because I'm Haitian, I always known about the Haitian Revolution, but out of the Haitian Revolution came this idea of wanting to be free.
Yeah.
The Garvey movement in the 1920s gave way to the Negritude movement. The Negritude movement in Francophone countries gave way to the Black Power movement. The Black Power movement gave way to the Afrocentric movements, which still exists today. So I'm connected to that world, and it was hard to put it in a young adult novel.
What's so hard about it? I feel like I have an idea, but I'm curious.
I think because, some of the, I read a little bit of the reviews and they say, oh, this is something that could happen in the 60s. And people are disconnected from the reality of in the different ways in which we can exist now. So young people, if I say, what do you know about the Black radical tradition? The only thing that they know right now at 16 and 17 is Black Lives Matter and civil rights. There's like nothing else that existed before. There's no other ways of thinking.
Right.
It's like, give us our freedom and stop shooting us. They're not learning in school the different movements that went beyond that.
Yeah.
That there were Black people in the 80s farming, and advocating for vegetables in their community. There were Black people who were vegan. In the 70s. There were Rastafarian African Americans. The MOVE organization in Philadelphia, they were wearing freeform locks in the early 80s. And I know of people like that. I know of people, I had some friends when they were little, they didn't eat any dairy. So they were like, we had apple juice with cereal. So it's just a matter of highlighting the different ways people were trying to find freedom.
Yeah.
And young people need to know that. If you're in Philadelphia or in Pennsylvania, you know about the Amish people,
right,
or Pennsylvania Dutch country. But do you know about the MOVE organization? Do you know that there was something called the New Africa movement in Mississippi that was that were advocating for Black people to arm themselves? So before, like, Tabitha Brown, Black people were vegan,
right,
and a lot of Black communities, a lot of the Black stores, and I picked up that book, Prose to the People, Afrocentric bookstores. The first Black bookstores were Afrocentric because that was part of the movement. Black Panther Party advocated reading. And out of this idea of radical thought, you had this need to read African writers, to read Black writers, and to write as well and publish your own books.
So it sounds like in what you're saying, this kind of path to write and publish your own books has been kind of an idea for you a lot longer than even before you joined the writer scene in New York, right? And I'm wondering how has your research and just being a part of this movement informed you as a person and as a writer? What are you hoping people are able to learn about themselves and the world around them through that?
I think it's just reading. I don't think that my writing is to like let people know who I am. My writing is more like documenting a thing in a part of history and a part of culture. While this is like close to who I am, it's close in terms of what I believe, right?
Okay.
Not her father, but just the ideas, right? Yeah, the idea of, hey, there are different ways to build community, right? What if you can have a home and provide safe space for people. In Skin, I want people to know about shapeshifters, Caribbean shape. That's two different worlds, seemingly, but it's part of the same concept in that these are little known aspects of Black culture. This, like, a lot of young people don't know, like, the Caribbean beyond jerk chicken and pan and palm trees. They have their folklore. And this is one aspect of their folklore that needs to be documented in a book.
Yeah. No, you're very much so right on that, right? I think folklore is something that we're like losing by the, by the day, by the year.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
We don't, because, belief, right? We don't believe them. We're looking at them as just folklore of story. So I was looking up some videos of the Sukuyan, which is what the shapeshifter is called. It's a woman who sheds her skin at night and flies across the sky as a fireball. That sounds bonkers, right? And of course, we're like, oh, that's a great story, but we're not going to believe it. So it comes out of Trinidad. In Haiti, it's called the Lugau. And Lugau is a catch-all term for any shape-shifting creature. So it doesn't necessarily mean that. And I had to name them different things because they're all French words, but the way the different island people interpret it are different. So there was a video of a Trinidadian couple. They were late 80s, 90s, maybe centenarians, who were speaking in French in Trinidad. And the whole video was about how French is dying in Trinidad. People don't, Creole, not French, Creole. They sound exactly like Haitians. And it's because there were French people in Trinidad who colonized some of the Africans there, but there were more English speakers, and they moved up to the mountains. So they were just documenting this couple speaking in Creole. And I was like, that's fascinating. So they were going back and forth, not about whether a Sukuyan existed. They were arguing where they saw the Sukuyan. The husband was like, she was behind a tree. The wife was like, she was on a roof. They were talking about it as if it was very real, if they saw this thing with their very own eyes. And you cannot tell them that that's not something real. So they grew up with these stories, not as stories, but as something real. Yeah. And you can't tell somebody they ain't see anybody, or that a black cat walking down the road isn't somebody's uncle, And it's a lot of superstition. Yeah. But it becomes part of the culture. You hear those stories, you believe it, and there's nothing to disprove you. Right? There's nothing to say that's not true. Right. Because all you have is your belief system and your stories. And there's so many things right now that we believe in. We don't see them, but we believe them. And because we believe them, they're true. And this is why we have religion. And no one thinks about it in that way.
That's very true. That's very true. I think, people don't think about it that way because religion is something that's so normal. Yeah. Right? Whereas, like, if you're comparing it to a folklore, you're like, oh, that's not.
Yeah, that's not real.
Yeah. So I'm going to say, in Nigeria, same thing, right? Like, you see a black cat, it's like, ooh, don't look. You might turn into one. Right, and it's like, I grew up like, oh, okay, that's a very true thing, especially because it's like people tell you, like, oh, this person, I saw them turn into a cat. Or I saw them turn into a goat. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
Yeah.
But
and they could be dangerous too. Because somebody say, no, she's a witch.
And don't that look at her because you never know.
It costs people their lives. But even without folklore, religion costs people their lives too.
Absolutely.
And we see it in so many different ways. So it is the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah. I'm wondering, with being able to tell these Black-centered stories, do you ever receive pushback from either the Black community or the Haitian community about the ways that you tell those stories? And has that ever felt confusing or discouraging in any way?
Yeah, I think, I think sometimes I look to see what the response is. They say writers don't look, but I think people with, the feedback with Skin maybe could be like, I didn't tell the folklore correctly. Or it's a misrepresentation, or it's colorist. The theme is colorism. If I'm right, the theme is colorism. I'm it's not a textbook about colorism.
Right.
It's not a textbook about how not to do colorism.
Right.
The characters are experiencing and like, you know, being colorist and experiencing colorism, or they don't know what it is, but they don't know how it's playing out in their lives. This is not a textbook about folklore. If it's inspired by folklore, I'm not going to describe a sukuyan exactly how it is,
Right.
because it's not real.
And that's the creative
That's
part
the creative arts
Yeah.
aspect of it, because one, sukuyan are not teenage girls, you know, living in Brooklyn, which is what the story is about. They're usually, this is me taking liberties with the folklore.
Right.
I know why they exist. There's a character called a Job in there. A Job in Grenada. These are men who paint their bodies in black, and it used to be black oil or molasses, just black, and they put the devil's horns on it. And it's colonial mockery for carnival time. Carnival is a lot of colonial mockery. By colonial mockery, it was the ways in which enslaved people made fun of their masters. And you know, if your master is like the women, they'd be Dame Lorraine is another one. They'd put the bustle in the back and wear the Victorian dresses, paint their faces in white and pretend to be the men. So for the Job, they took on this persona of little devils because that's what the masters would call them, and have the chains there. And it was story. They took the stories that were told to them or told about them and reenacted it and made fun of it.
Yeah.
That's what we do as Black people. And it was a way to take back the narrative. I'm not going to go into that in a novel in verse. You know?
I feel like you don't have enough space. Like,
it's not a textbook.
Right.
So there's a character who's a Job, but I'm not going to give the history of the Job. He's just there. And you take it for what it is. This is a story where the characters are these monsters and they believe for themselves that they are evil, because that's the story that other people say about them. And it's both empowering and it's disempowering. So here is this little girl. She has 15-year-old girl. She shapeshifts every new moon. And it starts with her mother praying over her because she's about to shed her skin. And the mother is like, this is who you are. Let's pray for your, safe return. And it's something powerful, but it's also something shameful.
Yeah.
So I'm making it in a nuanced way, right? It's like I had to use a metaphor. The folklore here is the metaphor. So women shed every month.
Yeah.
So it is powerful. You cannot give birth without shedding, or women who are assigned, humans who are assigned female at birth, shed. And it's something shameful and it's something powerful. So that's how I'm using the shape-shifting in the story.
Yeah.
It's her cycle, and her mother is helping her through it, but it's like, this is going to happen to you, but you hide it. Shh. You keep it secret. This is our power, but, it's bad, So that's the metaphor there. So the Sukuyan folklore doesn't get into all of that.
Right.
And this is me using that story to say something else. And readers will take it at face value, especially young readers. And the thing about reading is that you have to have context for the stuff. And this is one of the only Caribbean-based YA novels that uses that folklore. And without any context, you're going to think it should do all the things.
Yeah.
It's not going to do all the things. I wish more people would do it.
You miss what it is doing by having that expectation, which I think is always almost a disservice to people that do.
I think that's the thing with YA. YA fantasy, it's the action, it's the fun. Like romantasy is huge now. And romantasy is huge because it's a formula there, you know? And once you say a book is romantasy, you expect to see that formula in every book that you read. And the most successful ones are the ones that follow a formula.
Yeah.
And you go in expecting the thing, right? But if you're trying to do something different and new, people read it. Oh, fantasy. Wait, what? Poetry. What? Caribbean. Wait, where are they? Like, what? Where's the love triangle? Where's and it's like, ooh, 1 star, terrible, and you fling it across the room. So that's the challenge of being innovative in the YA space. But, it's literary. It's not I hate to say that sometimes.
I mean, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Because as I'm listening to it, I'm wondering, was your publication process very different for Skin than it was for Nigeria Jones?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I don't like doing the same thing twice. That's why I won't I don't want a fandom, because I'm not a fandom type writer. Because people be like, oh, we love that. So I get this a lot. We love American Street. Next book comes out. Wait, what's this? And I would have pigeonholed myself as I wrote the same kind of hood stories. I could have easily done hood stories and been successful because people are wanting different versions of American Street with different characters.
That's true.
And American Street in every city, that would have done really well.
Oh, yeah. You, I think, might have been a multimillionaire, to be honest.
Wait, no, not by writing books. And American Street in Miami, American Street in Houston, every hood, every city.
Right.
That could have been really good.
Yeah. I guess was there pushback publishing wise for Skin because you are using folklore and, if they weren't doing their own research?
I think that's my 10th book. By this time, they're like, okay,
whatever you want to do.
Whatever you want to do. And they know that I do something different each time.
How does that freedom feel for you as a writer to know that you can write and focus on what you want and know that you're, like, the publishing process will be like, sure, have fun?
You gotta be not thick-skinned, but you have to be sure of yourself to be able to write what you want. Because what that means is your readers won't always follow you with every book. And I gotta be okay with that.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. Because the kids, they come in like, oh, I love American Street. And they look at my books. They're like, oh, okay. Oh, we love Pride. What's this here? Oh, okay. So I got to be okay with just like, this not every book that I write is going to be for the same reader. But I am happier with what it is that I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Somebody who will read Skin and not be into Nigeria Jones. Somebody will be into Nigeria Jones and won't be into Skin.
Yeah.
But it's all different versions of me.
Yeah. Was that a skill that took you time to develop?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I didn't get published traditionally until, I'm just going to say it, like Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison first got published at 39. I was 39 when I first got published.
Yeah.
And I had all those years to fine-tune my voice.
It doesn't sound like you felt discouraged during those years when you were working and fine-tuning your voice, or maybe I'm making an assumption.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was discouraged. The hardest part, because I was older, the hardest part was walking into YA was the social dynamics. The social dynamics were hard. I knew how to work with an editor or an agent, but colleagues were a different thing. During social media, horrible. For me, at least.
What was tough about it? Because I feel like you're pretty present online.
Oh, no, I don't think I'm, this is not anybody's fault, but when selling to teens, it's like you are, like there is a way that you present your information. You are promoting to teens. You're making it fun. It's almost a popularity contest, and not in a bad way, but it is.
Yeah.
It's, you gotta just let the young people know that this is something they want to grab, that they want to read, and you present yourself as relatable.
Yeah.
And the only place I see that is like high school teachers, the cool high school teacher who knows all the slang, versus
they have all the cool outfits.
They have the cool outfits,
cool
hair. They maybe got a TikTok or whatever, versus the older high school teacher who's just strict and serious. Be like, I'm all about these grades, And you might not want to go hang out in their classroom during lunchtime.
Right.
I'm that teacher. I'm that teacher. So it's, so I know that, I know the girlies are like, I don't know, she bald. I ain't reading her book. So I know they're young.
They're so mean.
But they are very, not superficial in a bad way.
Yeah.
Right? They are judging a book by its cover.
For sure.
And it is a certain type of teen who will look past all of that. Mm-hmm. And I was that young person. Mm-hmm. I wanted to sit, that serious teacher, I would sit in her classroom.
Yeah, same.
So it's just a different type of reader that I'm attractive. But in terms of the social dynamics I didn't know that before I came in.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
had to learn
I had
quickly.
to learn that. I'm like, oh, this is high school again. Oh, no. Not high school in a bad way, but just like, there's a cool table. There's a cool table, and then there's the award-winning table. I don't know. the Glee Club,
there's
cheerleading squad.
Different cliques.
Yeah. And you find your people. Mm-hmm. You find your people. But for the most part, everybody's friendly.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's people will put themselves, into groups where they feel more comfortable, or your readers will do that for you,
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. I didn't think about it from that lens, but I guess you're right.
Yeah. And it's not a bad thing. It's a very human thing. Mm-hmm. But the common factor is that we're selling to young people.
Yeah.
Teenagers. And teenagers will, for them to understand how this all things will put you in a hierarchy, Mm-hmm. And then the teachers fall into that. Sometimes they'd have these contests, like, what do you call that, fantasy football type stuff where they like this book versus
like
this
bracket,
book? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. This book versus this book. And they tag you in it. I'm like, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Have my book against like a Nick Stone book. Sure. Okay.
It's a little bit unfair.
No, but they do that, and they have the kids vote like your favorite book. Mm-hmm. So you see like 8 on each side, then they narrow it down to 4, and then the 4 become 2, and the 2, and you looking at your book like, but meaning this is the YA space.
Yeah.
It's competitive in that way where you're vying for young people's attention. Mm-hmm. And there's so many ways that you could grab their attention. Mm-hmm. And when you walk into like a teen book con here, it's wonderful, it's great, but they are readers at the same time. They want to be entertained. They want you, they ask you your question, and you're just trying to just like buy my book.
Right.
And they already made their decision just
before they even got there.
Yeah.
I mean, with all of these different layers, it sounds like you've had to like kind of like learn on the go. How do you stay true to yourself, knowing that like there is a particular like kind of world that is in the space that you're in with YA, but like it's also important for you to stay true to you? How do you make sure that you're balancing that?
Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
I gotta say, even though I'm a little older, it is hard because you want readers to read your book.
Yeah.
But it's hard because there's no context. Like there is no one else writing about the Black radical tradition, right? There's nobody who's a New Yorker like me who was doing spoken word in the 90s. So all these different aspects of me, like they're very unique, but that uniqueness can be isolating. And when you're doing something different or being innovative, there's no one else to say, oh, this is like this book or this is like that book. So it ends up being, okay, I'm going to walk somewhat alone.
Yeah.
And, so it's okay. It's fine. But I'm older, so I could talk about it and use some reasoning, and it's always fun to get that one weird kid who be like, I read every one of your books. And I've had that,
It's reassuring. It
is very reassuring. Yeah.
Is there something that you remind yourself of in those moments where it does feel like, okay, I am very alone on the path that I chose? How can I just kind of remind myself of like my why, right? I'm wondering if that's something that you put into your own creative practice.
So, awards help. This Nigeria Jones won the Coretta Scott King Award. And it was validating. It's like, oh, okay, somebody got it. And that was able to reach more readers because of that. So with literary fiction, even though they won't fly off the shelves, I don't always love the hierarchy of awards because they can be political. But sometimes you have deep thinkers and readers who look at your work and see some value in it and acknowledge you for it. Even if you're a finalist or even if you're in a best of list, they do mean something for the writer or the reader who is not reaching their reader.
And I think, again, for you, because you do decide to not stick in one space, it sounds like you're able to reach many different types of people, which I think is beautiful in and of itself.
I hope so. Yeah.
In kind of talking more about your creative practice, where do you draw inspiration from now, or even in moments where it feels like nothing around you feels inspiring, or you're in a stressful space? How do you make sure that you're able to get into that space where you can be imaginative and be in the worlds that you're wanting to build?
Oh, I don't have that problem.
I love that. Wait,
I have the ideas lined up. Yeah, I have ideas lined up. I'm writing right now.
So you're constantly inspired.
I'm an artist through and through. I'm an art, like when people say artist, sometimes they're like, okay, I'm dancing, I'm painting, but I am always telling a story in my head. I am always, if I have a moment, I'm thinking of just my next novel. I'm like working out a plot. And then I'm thinking of the next book and the next book after that.
Wow.
So I have a nonfiction book that I'm writing. It already sold, called Tell a Story, Rule the World, African Mythology from Horus to Hip Hop. So as I was talking to you about mythology, it's because I was working it out in my head, So all these, everything that I've talked about just now is going in a book, which is the ways in which we live out mythology. It doesn't die. Our myths continue to survive and thrive.
Even if we don't recognize them as
Even
myths.
if we don't recognize, as long as we're making art, it'll still be alive. Just like that Kendrick Lamar at the Super Bowl, the fact that we see, what's this called? Uncle Sam, almost like an Uncle Remus, and that's an essay in the book of just like the intersection of patriotism and buffoonery. And I have something to say about that too.
Wow. Well, one, can't wait for that book. I feel like there's so much that I'm so excited to hear you speak more about, just from what you've described about your own research around mythology and the ways that you view it in regards to the world that we live in now. I'm wondering, have you always been this way where you're constantly thinking of stories?
Yeah. For as long as I watched a lot of TV, but I was just an inquisitive child though. Yeah, I was just always thinking about the world in interesting and unique ways, which is why I don't run out of ideas.
So it doesn't sound like it was difficult to convince your family that writing was the path that we were going to. I'm saying this being that you are Haitian. I'm using assumptions of they doctor, engineer.
Oh, they
lawyer.
knew I was like a lost cause. By the time I graduated high school, I was changing my aesthetic.
Okay.
I shaved my hair at 19 and I was wearing a buzz
big.
cut. That was a long time ago. I was rocking a buzz cut. And people always like the blonde buzz cut now, the platinum blonde thing. We were doing that in the late 90s, It's not nothing new. And I had locks in my early 20s, freeform locks, short freeform locks, all of that, So I was always that sort of edgy, way left of center kid.
And it sounds like they just kind of were like, all right, you're going to take your own path.
I had to move out.
Was that tough for you?
No, you know what? I got married very young, and my husband's also an artist, so he was I had friends, I had community. But what was tough is my mother rejecting it. My mother thinking I was psycho the entire time.
Yeah. And you were just carving out your own path, which is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. what most people do, like Nigeria.
Yes, my girl. You know, a lot of people I think will resonate with your story of going against cultural expectations and norms to pursue their dreams. What's something that you would want to share with folks that might be in that transitional space of maybe feeling rejected by their family, but also knowing that this dream that they have, maybe it's to be a writer or to do any sort of creative job, right? What would you say to them if they're struggling with that right now?
Oh, then I'll tell to my own children, right? I think you have to realize that it's a calling. Like, it is something that chooses you, and you have to listen. And if you don't listen, that's when you hit roadblocks. I mentioned Joseph Campbell is a white man, and he was into mythology. One of the things that he said is, follow your bliss and doors will open where you thought there were none. So bliss, this idea of bliss, you're like nirvana, you're just like happy place is when you are following your heart. And then you're following your heart, opportunities will come because it's just like, oh, this is easier than I thought. You know, this is like me, like I have ideas and I'm like, wait, I could sell another book? Like, wait, well, how much you pay me? Because this is my bliss. And the flow is there. Yeah. It'll come naturally when you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah.
And I mean, I think you're living that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you've written 10 books already and you're like, there's ideas, they never stop. They're constant. I think that, to me, that sounds like a constant validation that you are on the path that you're supposed to be on. A lot of people don't get that.
I think they do. They're just not listening.
Oh. Well,
they're just not listening.
You're right. You're right. What do you think is the barrier between people not listening and taking the steps to be on that
You're
path?
listening to other people and what society says. You know, right now, like I have a son who's about to go to college and it's like, you know, community college, save money. But I'm like, you might want to be in the woods somewhere. You know, like I kind of want you to go away and have that experience and to worry about the money. But then, like, if you're on the right path, like I just need, you need to live one life. You need to live, you need to save, but at the same time, live. Yeah.
That's a really good point of, you know, sometimes we let outside voices get a little bit louder than our own. How do you keep out the outside voices and stay focused on yours?
Bliss. Like every day, like what's going to make me happy today is bliss. Like I know like today I needed to wear yellow. And if I wear yellow, I will be very happy. Meaning it's daily choices. Yeah. Daily choices of just like what is going to bring me joy in this minute. And what will bring me joy is going to eat somewhere and having good conversation after we're done here.
Well, I think it's been incredible to hear more about you in regards to, one, I think it's so interesting when you're talking to someone about the things that they love and they're so connected to. And I think I definitely felt that sitting with you. Just, I know you have a big love for mythology. And you have a big love for Black people. And you're hoping to blend both of those things in every book that you write, it sounds like. So thank you for sharing your love.
Thank you, Wale.
I have one last question. And it's a question I ask everyone at the end of the show. If you can kind of get into the headspace of younger you, and it could be any age, younger you, what does the younger version of you, what do you think she would think about the books that you've written?
She would be like, oh, that's why. You know, she'd be like, this is why I'm going through what I'm going through now. You know,
okay. Everything will start to make sense.
Everything will start to make sense. Like, oh, you can't have too many friends in high school because you're going to be this brilliant person. Like now I can see what the high school kids, like the mean girls, I could see like,
but you couldn't see it then.
You couldn't see it then. Tough. And I'm like, oh God, they still mean 30 years later.
Yikes.
So you see like, oh, I just didn't see it back then. But now it's like, of course we couldn't be friends. We were just too different, you know? So hindsight is, you know, a wonderful thing. So to my younger self, especially my 16-year-old self, I'm just like, wait it out. But trust me, it's for a reason.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for being here, being honest, being open, and sharing so much about you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.